Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends podcast. The podcast is on to help you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. This is episode 400, and in the world of podcasting, 400 episodes is a pretty big milestone. It also happens to line up with the 7th birthday or anniversary of the show, which makes it even more special. I kicked off the podcast back in January 2019, and I generally want to thank everyone who has listened over the past 7 years. Your support has helped the podcast reach 350,000 plus downloads, and I'm incredibly grateful to every single guest who shared their stories, their experiences, advice, and hard-earned wisdom along the way. Let's be honest, if it was just me rambling on every week, which I have done in some of my solo episodes, the podcast wouldn't be where it is today. The guests, both from podiatry and outside the profession, are what makes this show what it is. When I started the podcast, I had absolutely no idea the impact it would have. Over the years, the emails and messages I've received from podiatrists and podiatry students has been humbling. There have definitely been moments when I've questioned whether the podcast was really making a difference. But when somebody reaches out and says if it wasn't for the podcast, they would have left the profession altogether, it puts everything into perspective. And that's when you know the time and effort is definitely worthwhile. I've also heard from podiatrists who said the podcast have helped them find their career direction, set clearer goals, or make connections that they never would have considered otherwise. And that's exactly what this show has always been meant to do. I always say, if you've enjoyed a particular guest, I encourage you to reach out to them. Let them know that you like their episode and connect with them on social media. That's why I always include guest contact details in the show notes. All you got to do is visit podiatrylegends.com if you haven't gone there before. I also want to thank everyone who has taken the time to leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platform. Those reviews mean a lot, and it helps the podcast reach more podiatrists around the world. And to the very small minority of people who have told me they hate the podcast and wish it didn't exist, I just want to let you know I'm not going anywhere. I've got a few more years left in me yet, so I will be here to keep annoying you. Now, this episode drops in the first week of January 2026, so I want to wish everyone a happy new year, and I hope you've wrapped up 2025 really well and you've got your 2026 goals clearly mapped out. If not, now is the perfect time to pause and think about where you want to head next. And if you ever want any help setting goals or developing your podiatry business to the level where it should be, I'm only an email away. You can reach me at tf@tysonfranklin.com or just visit my website, tysonfranklin.com, where you'll find my coaching page. From there, you can book a 30-minute Zoom call with me to discuss any aspect of podiatry or your podiatry business. At this stage, it's completely free, so take advantage of it while it's available. All right, let's get into today's episode. My guest today is Andrew Jacobs. Now, Andrew is an osteopath turned mortgage broker who specialises in helping allied health practitioners refinance or secure loans for their homes, investment properties, and businesses. Andrew is also the author of 2 books. One is called Pay It Off, which is the title of today's episode, and the other one is titled Healthy Money. We're going to dive deep into the ideas of both of these books, because if podiatrists can better understand how money works and the lending opportunities that are available to us that the average person cannot get, it can have a massive positive impact on both our businesses and the profession as a whole. So Andrew, welcome to the Podiatry Legends podcast.
Tyson, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on the podcast.
This is going to be fantastic because it's a topic I have not discussed on this podcast yet. I think it's one that podiatrists, it doesn't matter which country they're in. Yeah, we're based in Australia, but in general, money is money. So I'm looking forward to digging into this.
Yeah, at the end of the day, money is money. And if you're in Australia or anywhere around the world, it's important to understand it. It shouldn't be your life, or some people it is, and that's okay. But it's important to understand it. And I think a lot of people don't get that financial literacy from school or from their parents. And if you don't go out and look for it, it can really put yourself backwards. And if you ultimately understand money, it will really make you make better decisions and get you ahead in life. So it's something that's really important to understand.
So is that one thing you've noticed? People in the health industry, if they've come from a family that have maybe had businesses or a finance background, they seem to be more in tune with doing the right thing compared to people that have never had that exposure?
I think that's in every industry, not only just healthcare. If your parents talk about it at the dining room table,
Yeah.
you're ultimately going to be more comfortable with it. You have a better understanding of it if you introduce yourself to it. I know myself and with my kids, we do money school. They're 6 and 9, and we talk about concepts of money every weekend. It's tied to their pocket money, and they do little chores and everything for that.
What's money school?
It's just something that I've created.
Yeah.
It's just teaches them a concept about money. So my 6-year-old, if you ask him what interest is or what a dividend is, he'll be able to talk to you about what to do with your savings and why you're saving. He'll be able to tell you about good debt and bad debt. Just all these basic concepts that you should really learn early days.
Yeah.
And then we make it practical. We started off with a money jar where they got money because it's really hard to understand when you're young numbers, digital numbers. So we started with cash, coins, and they were given money. They got to put it in their savings accounts, which were just 2 jars with cuts in the lid. And ultimately, they just had to learn that when you get paid, you don't just go and spend it all. You save some, you spend some, and that's okay. So we always looked at it that way, and they were literally physically putting money into those jars when they were real young. And now they've upgraded to cards. So they've got their own little debit card, they've got their savings account and their spending account, and they're just practicing using money that way. And anytime they go out to the shops, I don't pay for anything for them. They use their card because they need to learn to manage that. And a lot of people say, oh, what about if they lose their card or anything? I'd rather them lose it now when they've only got a couple of $100 in it. But it's the concept. It's learning to communicate with it and knowing how to tap on or how to use the card, but it's also interacting with the person at the shop and everything like that. So just all these little life skills, which is really important. And a lot of families don't go through this. And I think it's really important. And that's the basis of Healthy Money, was just a lot of these concepts that I touch on in the book to just help educate people and bring their financial literacy up a little bit more. Because if you do understand a lot of these basic concepts, it can make a big difference in your life.
Oh, yeah. I think anyone listening to this who's got kids needs to follow that idea. I know with my kids, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and met him 20-something years ago. He happened to be in Cairns, and he put on this small workshop. And from that, he had a game called Cash Flow for Kids. So we used to play that with our kids so they could try and get an idea of how money worked. Plus, I think the other advantage is my wife's Italian. So it's in their DNA to be good cash flow managers.
Definitely. Cash flow is a great game. So is Monopoly. Little things like this where you can just make it a bit of fun. And that's where, when they're in a safe space and they can learn, and you just put basic concepts with it all as well. So, but not everyone has that financial literacy early on and have parents that can share that to them. So a lot of people that I work with, they're learning it for the first time as well, but then they start to pass it down, which is amazing. And as we all understand it more, hopefully we can educate more of the young ones, and then coming through, that makes a big difference.
Yeah. So you mentioned Monopoly. You played Monopoly with your kids. Was that one of the first things? Yep. Did you smash them?
Of course.
Yeah. So, I used to do the same thing. I go, take no prisoners. I go, I am going to annihilate you in this game until you understand it. And
the scary part is when they start beating you and you're actually trying, and you've got to pretend, I just let you win in this one. But yeah, it's amazing. Kids are so adaptable and they learn so quickly. They're sponges. And it's amazing. You see it in kids' sport. You see them, they can barely bounce a basketball, shoot a netball, kick a football. Give them a year, they're running around doing this. And the same with money. They pick them up so quickly. And these games like Monopoly, they're sponges, and they really pick up concepts really quickly. And it's a great way to learn when you're young. It's have a bit of fun and you're learning concepts that will stay with them hopefully forever.
Yeah. And what I loved about the game when we played like the Cash Flow for Kids with my kids when they were younger was for them to understand. You might have one person who makes a really high income, might have been an airline pilot, and you had somebody else who had a basic job, only earning about a third of what the other person was. But as the game went on, the person who earned less ended up winning the game of life because they managed the money better and they didn't spend it thinking the money was always going to be there.
Yeah, and that happens in reality these days as well. You see it a lot. I think we talked about before that a lot of GPs get themselves in trouble because they get a high cash flow and high income. But if you're not good with how you spend that and the difference between good debt and bad debt, suddenly you can find yourself in trouble. So for me, one of the biggest things was education. And that I know when I was an osteopath, I spent a lot of times with clients and patients, educating them on injuries. And all the pods out there would understand, like, if your patient understands the concept of the treatment that you're implementing, they're going to really take that on board and actually do it correctly. Whereas if you just say, go do this, and they don't understand why, they're never going to do it. And that was one of the big things that I wanted to do, was educate people on money and on obviously their home loans and how the banks utilize it to take advantage of most people and make billions of dollars in profit, how the systems work, and then just reverse engineer them. And if you do them and put things in place, you can actually save yourself a lot of time paying off a home loan or putting yourself in a bad situation where you've got bad debt or anything like that. It all just comes down to education. And so for me, when I transitioned across from osteo, I wanted to bring that kind of concept with me and really bring a real education point of view to things, because I'm just a big believer that if someone understands something and they're educated on it, then they're going to implement it so much better.
So where do you start with clients? If somebody reached out to you, someone's in the health industry, and this is why I got you on here, because I think this is really important information for podiatrists. What's the starting process? Somebody reaches out to you because they want to get a loan, or they've already got loans and they want to consolidate, or they want to understand and manage the money better. Where does it all start?
Yeah, ultimately it's understanding where they're at and where they want to be. That's the thing that I ask first and want to understand first. If I understand who you are, because everyone's different, and that's one thing I've learned, that everyone has a different financial position. Everyone's had a different story. So for me, it's just really understanding who that person is, where they're at now and where they want to be. And then my role is to help fill that gap and create a pathway towards that outcome that they're wanting to do. A lot of times initially, if they contact me, we'll have an initial call, and it's just me asking questions, trying to really understand, just like you would with a patient. You're wanting to understand, okay, how did you get that injury? What did you do? And you're asking lots and lots of questions to understand, because the better you understand them, the better the treatment's going to be, the better outcomes they're going to be, and they're more likely to connect with you and get a better outcome. So ultimately, it's just understanding, because everyone is different, and how one practitioner, they might be at the same job doing the same role, but they'll have two different financial lifestyles, or their partners does something else. And there's so many different outcomes that they may want to achieve as well. So it's really just understanding what they want to do and where they want to be, and then taking them from where they are to where they're going to be.
And are people talking to you purely for mortgages for their home, or are they talking for business loans as well?
Yeah, we get a lot of variety. So obviously, most of people are just allied health practitioners because we specialize in it. And there's lots of policies within banks that really benefit and give practitioners an advantage over the normal person, which is amazing. Yeah. And that's one of the benefits of specializing in that, because I know all the niches and all the policies that I can direct people to. But a lot of it is owner homes. So they're owner occupied homes. So they just want to either buy a home or refinance their home to a better rate. But we're starting to see a lot more practitioners now starting to want to build portfolios. So property portfolios, majority of them, probably 60%. I find there's about 30% of people that just want to buy a home and that's it. They're happy with that. Very simple, easy. There's about 60% now that want to buy their home, pay it off, but also have a few investment properties, because they understand debt and leverage and the benefits of having that over long term and getting capital growth and capital value in that. And then we've got about a 10% of the population of people that kind of speak to me that are really aggressive investors that are doing property development, are wanting to really push the boundaries on serviceability and everything like that. And they're moving more into commercial properties and self-managed super funds, lending. But the bulk is within either buying a home or buying a home and maybe one or two investment properties.
Yeah, but you've got to start somewhere. So I'm thinking and I think this is really important for younger podiatrists now, the new and recent graduates who are earning the first wages and they're starting to save some money, and maybe they've got a partner and they're thinking about buying a property. I think this is when they need to start talking to someone like yourself, and just, if they don't already know what to do, is start learning how this works. So I mentioned to you, and I'll tell the story, that when my wife and I met, we bought our first home, our goal was to pay the thing off as fast as possible. And it took us 2 years and 7 months to pay it off. Then when we bought our next house where we live now, we just put everything into that as well. And by the time the house was built, we owned it outright. But then I remember saying to my wife one day, all my friends had flat screen TVs at the time. And back then, the day, they were 40-inch. That was as big as you were going to get them. And I said, oh, this is unfair. Everybody I know has got a flat screen TV except us. We've got this big boxy thing. And I was really annoyed. And then my wife turned around to me and said, do you know, we're also the only people that don't have a mortgage. And I went,
yeah,
aha. And that That was an amazing point, and that is something that I have taught my kids.
Yeah, and it's such an important thing. And a lot of people don't appreciate the value of having and owning your own home. And it's such an important thing. And life really, doors open up when you do own your home and you don't have a mortgage anymore. It's a lot of spare cash flow that you can utilize. But I spend a lot of time with strategies with practitioners. So even when they're not ready to buy a home right now, we spend a lot of time setting them up because there's a lot of things you can do to really make it really hard for yourself to get a loan.
Yeah.
A lot of bad debt, credit cards, car loans, all these things that really reduce your serviceability that make it really difficult. And there's strategies that we can put in place that actually get people into the market quicker. But these days, it's really hard to buy your own home because of the serviceability buffers. So ASIC make us put 3% buffer. So make the banks put 3% buffer on top of what you're going to get. And so from a serviceability point of view, it's really hard. So we're seeing a lot of practitioners do rent vesting and other strategies like that. But you need to have an awareness and education around that so you can start setting yourself up for that. Because ultimately, if you know where you want to be and there's someone there to help guide you towards that, you're going to achieve those goals so much faster. So we spend a lot of time with strategy with people. So it might be 12, 18, 24-month strategies of, okay, you're here, you're not ready yet, but this is what you need to do to get there. And we prepare them, we educate them on, okay, this is what you need to be doing, this is what you need to be earning. And that really makes a big difference. And everyone that kind of puts a strategy together, they've got something to work towards. And by the time their strategy is ready, they're either going to get to it early or they're right on time to achieve that strategy and implement the strategy to ultimately get the loan that they need to buy that property that they wanted.
So pretty much the earlier someone talks to someone like yourself and starts putting that strategy in place, because I think it's also important to point out to them, every time you're spending money in one area, there could be money that you're saving that could go towards a first home loan or an investment property or something else. And the same as like when my wife and I got married, we had a honeymoon, we went overseas, we spent a bit of money on it, we had a bit of fun, kept it within a certain budget, but we didn't actually take another overseas holiday or any major trip for probably a decade later, because we put everything into our home and into our business, and cash flow wise, that set us up really well.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And everyone's life is different. So some people want to be really aggressive like you guys and achieve it really quickly. Some people want to kind of get a bit of a mix. They still want to go on some of those holidays, but it's just when and the timing, because ultimately you do it all at the start, you're going to delay your journey to getting into the market. And then it's really hard to outsave some of those markets, especially if you're in Queensland or WA, in Perth and Brisbane. They are just going gangbusters. And if you're trying to save up, the market's going, further forward faster than you can save. So at some stage, delaying that gratification is such an important thing. And it's something that, a lot of people who can do it get a lot of benefit from it because it sets them up early and then they can ride the equity wave as property goes up over time.
Yeah, so what you're saying, a lot of younger people too, if they go, oh yeah, but the first 4 or 5 years of work, I really just want to go to work. I just want to take holidays at the end of the year. I want to really enjoy myself for 5 years. Then I'm going to start buckling down and doing something. That 5-year delay. And I was talking to someone, about 3 weeks ago, and their parents were looking at a property at Broadbeach on the Gold Coast. There were these apartments there, and they were looking at them about 3 years ago, and they were worth about 1.2 million. And they were like, oh, should we? So they held off 3 years later, 2.5 million, same apartment. And now they can't afford it. It's out of their price because they're in that age group where they're about to retire, and then went, damn it, we can't have it now.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that you work so hard as a podiatrist, or what's the point of that? And it's really, if you can sacrifice early and put that into a property, there's very few people that look back and go, oh, I wish I didn't buy that property 10 years ago. You might get a few people that says that. You might get a few people that say, oh, I wish I didn't buy that property 1 or 2 years ago, because property's a long-term hold. You don't do it for a quick flip that some people try, but the system's really working against you. But if you hold property for a long period of time, you are generally going to do very well out of it. So if you can do it for 10 years, you're going to do well. 20 years, amazing. 30 years, well, you're kicking absolute goals. So it's a long-term play, but the sooner you do it, ultimately, the quicker it's going to set you and your family up and make your life so much easier when you're older.
So your 2 books that you wrote, The Healthy Money, that was the first book, was it?
Yes, correct.
What's the emphasis on healthy money?
So Healthy Money was just pretty much breaking down concepts of money. It's a money guide. So it goes through money psychology, and it was all written specific for allied health practitioners, because as practitioners, we think differently. Ultimately,
Yeah.
where we've got this really caring nature to us, and dirty and profit and money seems a dirty word in the industry, but it shouldn't be the case. So it breaks down a lot of that money psychology and then just talks through things like setting goals, budgeting, how to save, things like good debt and bad debt, and breaks down the difference between them all. And also just looks at what inflation is and how our governments devalue money, and why saving these days just sets you backwards, and how important it is to buy assets and things that will appreciate over time and not just get devalued with inflation. And then things like how to make your money work for you. And then ultimately, what's the whole point of it all? It's to buy back your time and give you choice. Because at the end of the day, that's what money does give you. It's not about just Ferraris and mansions. It's ultimately about how you spend your life and who you spend it with. If you can buy back time, that might be just working 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week. Or it could be having the choice to go on a holiday instead of having to work and burn out. So it's all these things that money gives you those options, but it's just really having that education. And it's all these concepts that probably we all should have learnt early in our life, but some people didn't. So it just helps fill that gap. And I find a lot of younger practitioners enjoy it. And there's still a lot of older people and older practitioners get a lot of benefit from it, because they're like, oh, I never really thought about it that way, or no one ever taught me this concept. So it's a bit of there's no pictures or anything, so it's not as fun, but it's just really simple way to learn, and it breaks it down into different categories and different chapters to really understand the concepts of money, just to make it really simple for people.
Yeah. Have you ever read that book, The Millionaire Next Door?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's along the same concept what you're talking about, but one of the things from that book that really struck home with me was a lot of people, when you said they think when people are wealthy, it's driving a Porsche or it's having a flash home or really nice jewelry or traveling business class. And they're talking about the average millionaire is a meat and potato sort of person. And most of the people that are quite well off and quite secure, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know it. They don't drive around in super flash cars. They live within their means. They don't try and keep up with the Joneses or try and show off in any way. They just get on with what it is they need to do, and they set themselves up really well.
Yeah, I see it all the time. Obviously, being a mortgage broker, I see the financials behind all my clients, and the ones that look like they're doing really well, a lot of times aren't. There's a lot of bad debt in there, car loans and things that look good from the outside, but when you pull back the hood, it's actually not doing so well. Whereas the people that are actually very wealthy, they don't want people to understand that they are wealthy, because if you tell everyone that you're wealthy, it puts a target on your back. So a lot of those people will drive around with really older, like reliable, but older cars. One, because they understand where they can actually put money to work for them, not against them. But also they just don't want to let everyone know how well they're going. It's interesting. It's smoke and mirrors a lot of times with how people show off their finances. Some people just do really well and want to show it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people I get that concept, the millionaire next door, you wouldn't even know, but they own their home, they've paid off all their cars, and they're enjoying life.
Yeah. I remember having a young podiatrist coming where I live now to this house. I remember him turning up and we're sitting out the back around the pool, and he looks around at the house. He goes, oh, I thought your house would have been bigger. And I went, you prick. I just got something, I love my house. And a lot of friends come over and they go, you've got the best bar area we've ever seen in anybody's house. But for some reason, he just thought I'd have this massive, big, flash house. And we've got a nice house and it ticks every box that I could possibly want.
The concept that people have in their head that ultimately a bigger house means you're doing well. Like most of the wealthy people I know have smaller houses, but heaps of investment properties. They're like, my house isn't generating me money. Why would I want so much money into one house when I can just split that up, have a smaller property, less maintenance, less heating, less cost overall? I can't live in 10 bedrooms. I can only sleep in one at a time. So if I have a smaller home, I'm not putting a target on myself, but I've got all these other then investment properties that are bringing in money. So while I'm sleeping, these are generating money for me. That's a lot of the way the wealthy people think. They think, okay, how can I use my equity and what I have to earn me money instead of me having to go out and treat more patients, for example?
It was like Warren Buffett. I think he still lives in the same home he bought in 1957, just in this little suburban 3-bedroom home. And the guy's a billionaire, still drives an old pickup truck, because he said none of them make him money. He just keeps reinvesting it and does other things with it.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Like I've got my own podcast called the Successful Allied Health Practitioner Podcast. And it talks about the concept of what's success for people. And everyone's definition of success is different. And that's what will come to the conclusion that it's not, you have to have millions of dollars to be successful. Success is generally a journey, and your definition of success will change over that journey. But a lot of times people just don't, being a millionaire or having all this money isn't really high on a lot of people's agenda for being successful. But for some people it is, and that's fine. It's just understanding who you are and what you think is successful, and understanding that success will change over time as well. And that's okay as well, because when you're a practitioner, when you first come out, success is probably you just want to get fully booked. And then as you get bigger, older, and you maybe have a business, you want to bring on a few employees and build that business up, and that's successful. And then as you get past that, you're like, actually, I want to work less. You know, and all these things, and that's okay. Everyone has a different definition of success. But the same as wealth. Everyone has a different level and different definition of wealth and what they're wanting to achieve. It's ultimately just having someone that can understand what your definition is and what you're wanting to do, and put a game plan and a strategy behind it to help you achieve it.
Yeah, I think this is such good advice. I was talking to someone earlier today, and we were talking about the hungry ghost. Have you heard that concept? Where it's just when people, they make a certain amount of money, and it doesn't matter what they make. They keep thinking they need to make more to be happy. And they just keep feeding themselves. It doesn't matter how much they make. They're never going to be happy. They need to realize there's more to life than just making money, but you still need to make it. You still need to make a certain amount. You still need to get yourself in a really good financial position. So your other book, Paid Off, what's the concept of that one compared to the Healthy Money?
Yeah, so Healthy Money was all about money and understanding the basis of money, and it's pretty much a money guide.
Yeah.
Whereas Paid Off is strategies written specific for allied health practitioners to pay off their home. And you can take that concept. You don't have to just pay off your home. If you've got different loans and whatnot, you can use the same strategies. But I pretty much break it down into 3 different categories. They're pay down strategies, cash flow strategies, and equity strategies. So you can use any of these strategies and stack them together. And that's where you generally get the most compounding effect of it. So if you use multiple strategies together, you get a bigger compounding effect.
Yeah.
But it's ultimately just ways that you can go about paying off your home really fast. So the whole concept is that everyone is different. It's not like, okay, do this and this is how you do it, because everyone's life is different. You need to have variety in it all. And some people will resonate with some strategies and others won't. So when I was writing it, these are concepts and strategies I pretty much implement with all my clients anyway, but I wanted to give it a framework so I can give one so people can go educate themselves by themselves, but also they can refer back when we have a conversation during a meeting. But it's just simple things like one of the pay down strategies is changing from monthly repayments to fortnightly payments. If you've got $1 million loan paying 6% interest, if you change from monthly to fortnightly, you'll save just under $250,000 in interest alone. And that's not changing much. Like, that's a pretty simple change. And I know myself, earning $250,000 is really hard. So if you can just simply switch from paying monthly to fortnightly and you're saving $250,000 over the duration of your loan, that's incredible. There's other things like paying an extra $50 a week into your mortgage. Like $50, it's not that much when you think about it, but over the lifetime of the loan, you're going to save $123,000. So just a simple change can make a big difference. And then if you bump that up even further, you maybe treat 1 or 2 extra patients on the weekend, and instead of putting $50 a week, you put in $200 a week. You know, that's going to save you over $360,000 in interest over the lifetime of the loan. So you suddenly stack that strategy with your fortnightly repayments. It's really cutting into the loan term and also the amount of interest that you're paying back. And there's so many other things like utilizing an offset account. And if you only have, say you put $20,000 in your offset account over the time, again, it's going to save you about $70,000. You bump that up to $50,000, you're nearly saving $190,000 in interest. All these little strategies, and the book goes through each one of them. It gives you kind of graphs, pictures, tables, and breaks it all down. And I've done it in a really unbiased way. So it's just giving you the numbers to it all. And the whole point is to understand the concept and then implement it into your own strategy, and then essentially making your own strategy by stacking them all together. But if you just utilizing one of the strategies alone would save someone thousands and thousands of dollars. You stack them all, you're in the hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings. And that's the difference between if you're wanting to retire, that's 10, 20 years early, paying off your home loan a lot quicker. You know, these simple things that the banks aren't going to come out and tell you, because that's how they make their money. They make their money by you paying off your home loan over 30 years. So if you can pay it off quicker, you're taking money away from the bank. So they're not going to tell you this stuff. They're giving you the product and not teaching you how to use it properly because they benefit from you not using it properly. And this book essentially breaks that down, pulls the curtain down, and shows you how to do it to make a huge difference in your life.
And I know there's probably people listening to this podcast who are going, well, I already know all this. That's great. But there's going to be a ton of people who only know part of this. They don't know everything, or they're not doing any of this, especially some of the younger podiatrists that, like you said, they haven't come from business backgrounds, which I didn't. I just had to learn this as I went along, that some of this is all going to be new to them. So your books, they're all available on Amazon, I take it?
Yeah, so you can get them on Amazon, but I'm a big believer of I don't want to hold things back from people, so I just make them free on my website.
Oh, cool. Okay,
so
well, give us the detail. Give us the details of your website now, and all your contact details in case we forget towards the end, which I don't normally, but just definitely. In case.
So I run a mortgage choice franchise. So if you go directly to www.mortgagechoice.com.au/Andrew.Jacobs, you'll find all the links on there. And you can just download them free, or you can jump on Amazon and pay me $12. Either way, I'm happy.
Oh, I'm paying $12. Give Andrew your money.
So yeah, at the end of the day, I'm big on just education. I don't want to hold something back from people. So if someone just floats across and finds it on Amazon, great, they can pay me $12. If they connect with me, I always send it to them anyway. All my clients have this. It's all about education, and anyone else, I'm happy to open it up and share it with everyone. So that's why they're free. It's about educating practitioners, because I know myself, if I can help more practitioners, then they can help more patients, and then the world's a better thing. And it's all about giving more than taking. So that's my little contribution to the world as well. So just trying to pass on as much information as I can.
Okay. And what was the name of your podcast again? May as well give that another plug.
The Successful Allied Health Practitioner podcast.
There you go. And I've had somebody once said to me, how come you have other people come on that actually have podcasts? And I went, well, why not? I said, it's all about sharing this information around. And this is where, some people may have a scarcity mentality and an abundance mentality. And I have an abundance mentality. I think there's plenty of people out there that are listening to podcasts, and everyone's got plenty of time, so they can listen to your podcast and mine.
Exactly right. I think if you can learn from anyone and everyone, then that's a good thing. And it's amazing how suddenly I'll be sharing this on my socials, and then some of my listeners will come to your podcast. And that's how everyone, at the end of the day, sharing is caring, and that helps the world.
So for podiatrists listening to this now, would you like them to go to your website, download the book for starters? Then after they've read the book, just reach out to you? That's the easiest way to get going?
Yeah, ultimately it depends on where they are in their journey. If they want to speak to someone, some people like to speak to people rather than reading something. I know I'd rather speak to someone and build a relationship with someone than read a book. And if that's you, then reach out, give me a call, or send me an email. If you want to read the book and you don't want someone to speak to, then read the book. It depends on where they are at their journey. And ultimately it's just understanding where they want to be. And then it's just how to fill in those gaps essentially. So it's up to the person that how they want to interact, and either way is fine.
And like you said, I suppose it depends where they are on that financial journey as well. Are they beginning their career and not quite sure what to do? So they've got a lot of questions. Someone might be partway through their career and they think they've got things in place, but they might need a little bit of guidance. And you're getting other people who are maybe towards the end of the career, but they still want to know, have I got everything? Have I ticked all the boxes? Is there anything else I'm actually missing?
Yeah, and you mentioned before that there's some of these within the book, there's probably strategies that some people already know and they go, all right, I know that. But one of the benefits of being a podiatrist, and I assume most of the listeners here are podiatrists, that banks really love podiatrists. They love the industry. They know it's secure, that it's not going anywhere. So they'll have special policies and deals for practitioners and podiatrists to entice them to bank with them. So you may understand the concepts of the strategies, but then it's how to implement them and how to implement it to take advantage of that. So we've got lenders that will give, instead of needing the 20% LMI or the 20% deposit, they'll give a 10% LMI waiver. So you only need a 10% deposit to buy a property. That gets people into the market quicker. Yeah. But the benefit of that is it's not just owner-occupied homes, it's investment properties as well. So yes, the government now has a 5% guarantee where you can get in with a 5% deposit. That's great, but that's only if you're living it. Whereas the banks now, they appreciate and understand podiatry, and they'll go, okay, we only need you to have a 10% deposit because they understand the industry. So, that can be 10% on your home, and then you can obviously leverage that quickly to get into your next investment property, because that only needs a 10% deposit. And then you only need a 10% deposit on your owner occupied. So suddenly you can buy 2 properties even faster. So there's benefits like that. There's some banks that will give podiatrists 10-year interest-only loans instead of 5 years that for the normal person. Instead of having to show 2 years financials, they only have to show 12 months financials. And we've got some banks that will actually say, we don't even need to see 12 months. If you follow these certain policies, if you pay it yourself in this way, we'll take 6 months of that. You don't have to actually do what most people need to do to get a loan. And that's where the benefit of being a specialist in the industry and really understanding the niches and understanding the policy can really help me implement it for practitioners. So you don't have to show your genuine savings of 5%. There's people that if you're running your own business, instead of being self-employed and you have to show all your business financials, they'll just treat you as a PAYG employee and you can just show your wage. There's ones that will remove HECS. So they just don't, if you can show that you can pay your HECS off within 5 years, they'll actually reduce your serviceability buffer. Instead of it being 3%, they'll take it down to 1%. Or if we can show that we can pay off your HECS within 5 years, they'll just take your HECS off it all and everything as well. So there's amazing different kind of benefits of being a podiatrist and having a specialist that actually understands it all. You may understand the strategy, but then how to go about implementing it can be a different thing.
You really get off on all this, don't you? I can tell and I mean that in a really positive way. So I take it you're not working as an osteopath at all anymore, are you?
Every now and then I keep my registration because one, I just feel like I can connect and resonate with practitioners better. Yeah. And that's one of the benefits of it is I understand. I was trading for 16 years. So there's just some people that you build professional relationships with, and brokering is a job where you sit at a computer all day, every day. Like I love getting out and speaking to clients, but at the same time, you're sitting all the time. So it's just a few times a week, get out and instead of going for a walk, I'll just go treat a few patients. Like late at night, treat a few patients. So I keep my professional qualification. And to me, that's important. So if I'm going to resonate with the people that I work with, I should be a practitioner. And if I totally close down my registration, then I'm not a practitioner anymore. So that's one of the biggest driver to that. So I still have my qualification. I'm still a qualified osteopath, but yes, it's very low numbers these days.
I know. I love the passion. I think it's great because you will talk, if you go and talk to your bank manager, that's if they have bank managers anymore, but if you go and talk to your bank lender, whoever it is, they will not show a tenth of the passion that you just did about all the different options that could be available to podiatrists. So
yeah, I think I look at it past just the policy. Like to me, I just see the life-changing aspect of it all. You can make these simple changes and have such a huge impact on someone's life. And like what we did as practitioners, that if someone comes in with a chronic ankle problem or a chronic foot problem, and you can fix that and you make a difference, they walk out there, you've literally changed that person's life. So ultimately I can still do that, which is amazing. That gives me that good feeling every day. And it's just trying to share that with as many people as possible, because ultimately there are these amazing advantages that practitioners can take advantage of, but a lot of them don't know. Yeah. And if they did know, they could have got into their home quicker, or they could pay it off quicker, or they could set themselves up, or the next generation set them up. There's just so much impact that it can make in society. Ultimately, I think that's what drives me a lot of the times, is just the big impact that it can make.
Yeah. And it's also too, I think it's looking outside of, I'll use my wife as an example. I know that the bank we initially banked with was the bank that her parents banked with. And they were the initial accounts that were set up. So all our banking was done through them initially all the way through. And even though, yes, we paid off our loans really fast, but then when it came to investment stuff later, we're going, oh, hang on, this bank they're not even going to look after us. We were telling them what we want to do, and they're going, yeah, we don't know if we'll give you the money or not. So we started looking outside of that. And that's when you start realizing there's a lot more deals out there than what you think. So I think it's important. I think like with what you're doing, someone talking to you and getting all the options and not just keeping blinkers on and just dealing with what they're used to. Try something a little bit different.
Yeah, there's a massive loyalty tax these days that you staying loyal to a lender will cost you a lot in the end. That you see it a lot with Commonwealth Bank. All the Dolomite kids back in the 90s, they all still bank with Commonwealth Bank, and they're getting taken for a ride for a very long time. That the whole loyalty tax is they're not loyal to you, and you need to keep looking at it. And that's where part of the service that me and my team provide is we revalue and reprice loans every 6 months. So just like your house insurance and private health insurance, there's nothing worse having to do that every 12 months and you're like, oh, going to compare the rest of them. So we do that every 6 months because we see property values going up. And what a lot of people don't realize is that banks price based on the amount of equity that's within the home and within the property. So if you've got a 20% equity, so you've got 80% loan, your pricing will be set at a certain amount. But if you drop that down to 70% or 60% or 50%, your pricing actually drops down as well. But if you don't actually ask for it, they won't pass it on, because again, they're not going to pass on a discount for no reason.
Yeah.
So we constantly revalue and reprice our properties to look for those property tier drops. And then if we get that, we can request a lower interest rate, and then obviously saves clients a lot of money over time. And then if the lender that they're with aren't willing to do lower pricing, then we can look at different refinance options, because again, it's that loyalty tax. Sometimes people and banks will reward new clients to the bank versus existing clients. So they'll have deals for new clients, exclusive for new clients. And as a consequence, the existing clients don't get the benefits of that. So for us, it was really important. No one wants to constantly look at all the different lenders and do all that every 6 months or 12 months. So we've got a team that does that ourselves. And we do that automatically for all of our clients, just so, every 6 months they get a call from me saying, yep, nothing's changed today, or actually we've got you a lower price, or your bank won't do anything, but we found these other banks and they're willing to give you this interest rate. It's just a peace of mind for a lot of clients that go, oh, great, Andrew's looking after it. I don't have to worry, because I know that someone is looking at this every 6-12 months and making sure that my loan is staying as sharp as possible.
Yeah, I think that's good advice across the board, though, whether it's house insurance, health insurance, whether it's your car insurance, and even your telcos, anything that's always constantly being renewed. I think you need to check and see, is there a better deal that you get? And I guarantee nearly every time you contact them, there will be a better deal. You just got to 100%. Find out what it is.
Yeah, you see it all the time. And it's the worst when I have to go do my own home insurance and you're comparing lenders and everything. Yeah. It is annoying, but you can save a lot of money. And they just they'll tend to push the pricing up after you stay for 1 or 2 years. So that's just something you've got to keep on top of. And for me, it was frustrating to do it with house insurance and private health insurance as well. That's why we implemented that model to help our clients. And it's just another added service that we can provide to make their life easier, because we're all busy. So it's just how do we take another thing that they have to do off their hands?
No, I think it's fantastic. So can people find you on social media as well?
Yep. So on LinkedIn and on a bit of Instagram, what I found these days is that you're best off to just stay on one channel. I was doing a bit of Instagram, bit of LinkedIn, bit of Facebook. LinkedIn is where I get most practitioners reaching out. A lot of professionals are out on LinkedIn. I feel a lot of people are using social media less and less these days. So LinkedIn is generally the one. We'll add the links in, but it's pretty much just search Andrew Jacobs on LinkedIn, or you go Andrew Jacobs, Allied Health Lending Specialist, and you'll find me on LinkedIn. I'm probably already connected to quite a few people, or I've got connections that are already connected to you. So just reach out, send me a DM if you've got any questions. If you want a copy of the book, I'll just shoot you through a PDF version, ebook version, through email or through LinkedIn. An easy way to connect that way.
Yeah, and I'll put all your details in the show notes. So people, remember to go and check out podiatrylegends.com. Go and look at the episodes, and that's where we have all the notes and a few extra things. So Andrew, I want to thank you for coming on the Podiatry Legends podcast. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up?
No, just thank you very much for the opportunity, and just educate yourself, put yourself in positions where you can do really well. But at the end of the day, if you understand what you're doing, you're going to do better off. And the earlier you start, the better you're going to be.
Okay, I reckon there's absolutely fantastic advice. So Andrew, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode today with Andrew Jacobs, and I do hope today's conversation has reminded you that being a great podiatrist isn't just about clinical skills. It's also about understanding the systems that influence your career, your lifestyle, and your long-term financial options. Financial literacy, it's one of those quiet skills that rarely gets discussed, yet it has a massive impact on stress, burnout, and freedom. And the earlier you start learning, the more control you give yourself down the track. And if today's episode resonated with you, I encourage you to check out the full show notes at podiatrylegends.com, where you'll find all the links to Andrew Jacobs, his books, and his work with allied health professionals. Or you can go directly to his website, mortgagechoice.com.au/Andrew.Jacobs. And if you'd like support with goal setting, business direction, or mapping out the next stage of your podiatry career, you can always reach me at tysonfranklin.com. There you'll find my coaching page and the option to book a free 30-minute Zoom call with me while it lasts. So thanks again for listening. Thank you for supporting the podcast over the last 7 years and for being part of the Podiatry Legends community.